Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you had a nice lunch. I usually don't like to have my presentation immediately after lunch, you know the reasons, but I will try to keep it exciting or at least loud enough to, keep you awake. Yes, so I'm Sabna Sainudeen. I'm here to talk about cybersecurity risk and supply chain, right? Um, and we all know that none of the businesses operate without me having a vendor or third party and partners, right? So everybody is interlinked together. And today we will understand what are the cyber risks in supply chain. I would be, taking a bit different approach where of course, I believe past days you might be having a discussion around legal, financial risk, and operational risk. Today, Frederick was talking about the resources and planning risk related, which eventually connect back to operational risk, right? But cyber risk is something which is mostly an overlooked issue, and which is being kept sometimes as an optional risk by some of the companies, right? Not telling everybody, but that's the trend that we have been seeing. I would also try to put some of the examples, which is, of course, public information related to a couple of world shaking supply chain cyber threats that have occurred in past years, which will help us to have some thoughtful, thoughts about these kind of supply chain risks and cybersecurity risks. And of course, so just a disclaimer, first initial slides are based on my industry experience, not very much related to my organization as a disclaimer, but towards the end, I will focus on how my organization, what are the best practices my organization, Carlsberg Group, what we are doing, our level best to address this risk. Uh, just about myself, I know this is a big picture, but maybe next time I will cut it short. I feel like this is kind of an advertisement, but yeah, I I start myself as a penetration test engineer a decade ago. We call it as ethical hacker, right? So um, yes, ethical hacker. I was working with TCS, where I was supporting a lot of clients. In my 4 years in TCS, I was supporting more than 200 clients to address cybersecurity. I also worked with Wells Fargo, which is one of the US big finance firm. I also worked with Schneider Electric, where I put my hands on to OT security, IoT security, and data security, now with Carlsberg. Apart from my office work, I dedicate myself, bringing back something to the community. And I'm very passionate about bringing more women into the field, because I had experience like I being like only one woman in a room of gray old men. But yes, but I see a lot of improvement, especially in my organization. Our information security team, we have more than 40% of women in the team, so which I'm very proud of. I'm also serving as advisory board in EC Council for the Ethical Hacking EC Council. Yes, so yes, bit about my company. Is there anyone who haven't drank Carlsberg beer? Oh yeah. Yes, so yes, we are a very, we have a very old heritage company. We started in 1847 by our founder, C. Akepson. And now we call ourselves as probably the best beer. So that's the tagline, and we use that in all the projects that we do. Probably the best ERP, probably the best everything. But yeah, that's a very cool thing. We have more than 140 brands that we are selling. We also have a lot of local brands. I met a couple of Swiss guys here, and I was trying to pronounce Flushlotion, but yeah, I think I tried my level best. And some of the famous brands like Tuborg, 6064 Blanc, Grimbergen, all those are our brands. Good. So as I mentioned, I'm very sure that you all know about all these risks, right? We had several discussions. Is there is there anybody in this audience where your organization is considering this risk as part of supply chain? Great. Oh my God. Yes. Good. Yes. So what is cybersecurity risk in a supply chain? It's the risk that occurs due to the vulnerabilities in the network or the software or through any IT systems and associated with the vendor or the supplier, right? And which can have a huge impact in the organization. And it can be in the form of data integrity risks, right? Or an operational downtimes. One of the vendor who is involved in your critical process for a software which is unavailable. Okay, somebody hacked into the system and that software is unavailable. Your operation get paralyzed and you can have a huge financial impact. Not only that, regulatory impact, right? We were talking about AI. So new acts are coming up. We have NIS2 directive also there right now. It's going strong. So there can also be a lot of huge regulatory impact. Statistics shows that this was based on a report done by Security Scorecard, which was the latest report I could find. 2024, they did a survey, and according to their survey, 45% of organizations responded that yes, the targeted the breaches that they had was due to their software supply chain breach. And 98% of organizations said that those companies who have been hacked, they had an association with them. They were one of their supply chain or the vendor. And most of the organization responded that yes, they do agree that the cost for remediating the vulnerabilities or the issues is much lesser, 40% lesser than the cost of the business impact, right? The revenue loss or the financial loss that occurs due to the cyber attack. So that means cyber risk is not a technology risk, and it should not only stand there. It's actually a business risk. It can affect an organization financially because revenue loss, compliance fines, and I would also focus on cyber insurance. Anybody knows about cyber insurance? Cyber insurance? Good. Would you like to? Yeah. Give a yes, yes, yes. Exactly. So this is like an yearly activity. Every CISO, Chief Information Security Officer of an organization, has to go through. They will have a meeting with the cyber insurance company. It's just that they can you just go to a good company and pay whatever you want and get the insurance, right? It is really hard to get the insurance because you have to really prove how you're securing, how seriously you take the cyber security in your organization, and also you're also responsible to check your supply chain security, right? And you need to prove all those things. once you are if you get any kind of cyber threat or cyber attacks, if you go through cyber attacks, your premium go high, and that means you end up paying another couple of years, right, the higher premium. So that's why financial loss can also occur in relation to that. Reputational risk, I don't have to speak much about it, because if there is a cyber attack and the business go down, you'll end up in the media, and it affects the reputation, and of course the legal issues. So this is a very strong statement. This says that your organization is only as strong as your supply chain. Okay, so let's compare it like a relay. Okay, so you have a relay. You are participating in a relay, and you have the best runners, the fastest runners in your team. But if one of the runner drops the baton, then your race goes on a toss, right? So exactly like that. So if there is a one supplier who is weak in their cybersecurity, because of their cybersecurity immaturity, if cyber attack happen, it can have a huge effect on your organization. Unfortunately, the reality is that your third-party vendors don't take cybersecurity as seriously as you do, unless you insist. Their business is to sell you the products, sell you the services, but it's our responsibility to have that strict conversation and requirement with the third party. And studies shows that industries, these are the industries which is most vulnerable to the supply chain attack, because attackers definitely the supply chain is one link attackers look for to enter into your organization, right? And these are the industries which is very lucrative for the attackers. Of course, manufacturing, because if you have downtime in your manufacturing product or plant, that's your core business and core products lies there, right? So, and you will end up paying any amount for the ransomware to get the operation back. Fast-moving consumer goods, especially because there's a huge data leakage that has happened related to these industries like retail, healthcare. Of course, because of the sensitive information and records, the attackers are behind. IT and agriculture. But I would say this is not only these industries, but every industries for whom the business is very critical can have adverse effect. Maybe because, as I said, these are the public information, I would like to quote some world examples about supply chain risks that has shook the world. Maybe let me see if how many of you know these incidents. 2013, multi-billion dollar retail giant have been affected by a cyber attack. Do you know which firm? Yeah. So it was Target in 2013. They had to face a huge cyber attack, mainly because it's very interesting, because they had a service provider, a company, a local service provider company, where they were doing maintenance and service for the air conditioning system, the HVAC. And this contract company, they didn't have a good cybersecurity, hygiene. So the attacker targeted this company, this contracting company. They got access to the system, and then the employee who is doing the service, who have access to the organization network, and through which they got access to the point of sale server, And the point of sale servers holds all the credit card information and the debit card and credit card of the customers, right? And I think more than 40 million customer credit card informations were leaked. 70 million personal data, and the company had to face more than 200 million financial loss because of that breach. There is one another example in 2017, which actually shook, yes, not Petya, which shook a big shipping giant, one of the shipping giant in Europe, and also a couple of other, yes. Any guess? So he told it's Musk, which was kind of an eye-opener for most of the European companies. Yes, so if it can happen to Musk, it can happen to anybody. So how was that being hacked? It got their market in Ukraine. So it's actually was done by attacker group. So they were using a software called Medoc, and Medoc was a software used for tax computation and accounting and all in Ukraine. And the software had vulnerability, and the attackers got into the software, and through the software it implanted malware, ransomware into the system. So the software was of course installed in Maersk, these companies. It's not only Maersk, FedEx and several other companies were affected, and they got into the organization network, and it rippled. I mean, we call it as the term called cyber kill chain. They laterally move whichever possible, just like a virus. So that's why we call it a virus. So it moved from one server to other, to the other, to other, and it was very massive that the entire operations for Maersk was paralyzed. Containers were stacked up. I think more than 76 ports were inoperable. Because Maersk also plays a very important role in the world trade and supply chain, and the world was affected. So yeah, so that's it. One software which was used in one market. It was not a global product. It was for one regional tax accounting software used in one market. It rippled through the entire organization. We have many other examples. In 2020, there was something called SolarWind. I don't know if you know about it. SolarWind, yes. So this was due to a software which was used to actually protect the network. The software used for the security and monitoring of the IT system. The attackers got into the software development environment of this software. So SolarWind is the company name. They had the software called Orion, and the SolarWind Orion software development team, their infrastructure was not secure. Attackers got into the developer environment. They planted a malicious code. The software went through packaging, and software being pushed for updates. Whichever customers did an update of the software, there lies the malware, right? And it was a huge cyber attack because it affected a lot of federal and government agencies, which leaked a lot of country and government sensitive information. So yeah, those are the examples. But yes, so that's why I wanted to let you know what is that complexity, right? Each and every link in your supply chain can be vulnerable to these level of the cyber risk. If we ask about our supply chain, yes, we have consumer demand. We have digital products for handling customer demand. We have softwares in brewery because our breweries are also not isolated now. It has also started connecting remotely. We have softwares in warehouse. We have transportation, fleet management system, software heavily dependent on our delivery. We also have customer digital apps. Yes, so what are the risks that we foresee, right? We foresee that infected software, cyber risks, attacks through attacks on data storage, and also cloud-based attacks nowadays, because in earlier days it was only the servers which was on premise. Now it's everything is moving. I'm sure that most of your organization might be in the journey of cloud migration or already done. So cloud-based attack is also emerging. Root causes can be different things, right? It can be a human error through one of your vendor employees who is managing a critical system, or access permission, or due to poor software security or cloud security. I just thought of taking one example to show how it can, how does that picture looks like. For example, there's a ERP system which is used for supply chain management, or which triggers a major process in your production. If you imagine this ERP software is being developed by somebody, some company, right? And that company is also not a standalone company. It relies on its third party and their cloud environment and their employees, and also sub software that they're using, and all these are contributing to produce that software. That means all the risk get inherited into that software. That's one side. So that's why we have a lot of vetting. We need to have a security assessment on this side. But if we think about the other side, which is implementation vendor, I don't know if you also use that term, right? Most of the organization might have in-house IT team, but I've seen several European and companies here where we outsource everything, because IT is not our core business. We rather spend on having in-house marketing team than having a in-house IT team. But the other thing is, when we outsource these managing our applications, maintaining our application to a third party, these third parties can also bring in the risk, right? Because they are not well trained. They don't know how to handle the data, because they are handling our data. And some of them might be the admins, right? Admins for the critical software. And if somebody hacked their account, our admin account, that can have adverse effect on the software. And they may also have another software that they are using, and it can infect. So once get into their network, it can propagate back to our organization network. So I think so we all know that this is very important, that we have to make sure that whom we are onboarding as our supplier, especially on the digital space. So when it comes to the procurement process, this is supply chain risk plays an important role. So that's why in our organization we have brought in a culture called shift left. We use this term in cybersecurity and everywhere. So I would like to call this out. So my department is application security. So we also use this in shift left. So start security right from the development. Similar to that, I would say shift left. That means engage your cybersecurity team right from the ideation, right? If you have a new product coming up, for example, Frederick was mentioning about the software, it came with an ideation, right? So right from the ideation, involve your cybersecurity team. This is what we are doing in our organization. For any critical projects or any digital product related with a critical business process, it is made mandate that security team has to be involved right from the beginning, from the ideation. And very important, have to be involved in the RFP, because we have to have that strict security requirement handed over to every suppliers when we go for an RFP, right? Because they know based on that, because they might they understand, okay, this is the requirement, right? And we can always vet the suppliers in the RFP process itself. And towards the end, we should definitely have all the cybersecurity clauses and requirement as part of the contract, and should have, what if they don't follow, should have that specific clauses in the contract. So my team is involved in any software procurement. So we get involved when a business decides, for example, a local market decides that we want to procure this software, or we want to develop this software. We are going to buy this SaaS cool software for this process. So my team get engaged. We check what is this criticality, what is the profile of the software looks like. Is it a business critical application, or is it going to be a global application? Is it something, does this application store sensitive information, right, like credit card or personal information? Based on that, we do a profiling, and based on these profiling, we have a specific set of requirement. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense that we can end up with 200 and 500 number of security requirements, right? We are glad to do that, but that's not the practical way. So we choose the criticality of this software that we are procuring, and we define that, okay, for high risk, these are the mandatory requirements that the supplier has to mandate to. Couple of things that we check, ask the supplier to be mandatorily satisfied. They should have ISO 27001, which I was talking to my friend today morning. Yeah, and SOC 2 Type 2. These are the certifications which we can rely on because this is being certified by an audit firm. Then we also look into software security policy. I would like to quote the, again, example Frederick mentioned. They developed an application inside, right? Of course, there can be an inside development that can happen. But we have to make sure that it doesn't come with a supply chain, no, because when in-house developers build software, it doesn't, they don't develop each code one by one on their own. So they usually reuse the code, which we call it as open source, code and libraries. They use that in their code and they build everything together. So I don't know if you know about Log4j issue, which have been, which shook again the world, because that was a logging software logging, to save the logs, error logs and all, which is being tremendously used in almost all the software. And attackers can simply get a remote access through a remote code execution and attack your network. So the developers can end up reusing these vulnerable versions of open source software, and eventually your software becomes, vulnerable software. We also check what is their vulnerability management. Yeah, sure. Yes, so we looked into all these perspectives, what is the business continuity and also the data backup. And we also critically check if do they have a security response team, right? And how do they manage? Do they have alerting and monitoring and those things? Yes, so in short, we go for a risk-based security requirement for suppliers. And we also monitor the suppliers. It's not like we end up with the contract. We also keep monitoring them, how they are doing. Are they complying to all the security requirement? We also make sure that we have a proper incident response plan in place, because we have to be, nothing is 100% secure. We have to be prepared like if an incident happened, if this critical process have a fallback, another option to continue the operation. Yes, and I mentioned about the contractual and legal clauses within. So in short, I would like to wrap up that yes, cybersecurity, supply chain risk management is a very critical function that needs to be in place. This is not a recommendation. We have history of attacks proving this, and this is one of the top risks that we discuss in cyber world. Good. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Sabna.
Yeah.